Hey, what's up, you maniacs? Jack Moves here. Thanks for joining me on my new podcast where I air my conversations in full with other interesting folks so you can catch a glimpse into how we think and feel. I encourage you to subscribe to this podcast using whatever platform you've chosen, be that YouTube, SoundCloud, or iTunes. The next episode will air in 2 weeks on May 28th. Today, I give you my recent conversation with Steve Vargas. Steve is a Cambridge-based drummer of bands such as Grey Bear, The Great Sabatini, and B. Pigwan. He's toured several continents, and his release credits are bound to be in the double digits by now. He also runs his own podcast called Take Her Wide, where he interviews people from all over the spectrum of independent music. Speaking from a friend's perspective, Steve is very humble, inquisitive, hardworking, and well-meaning. His podcasting interview skills frequently flip the questions back on me during the course of the conversation, creating an interesting dialogue. I hope you guys enjoy. Feel free to send me feedback, again, either via whatever platform you'd like or via jackmovesloops@gmail.com. That's jackmovesloops, LOOPS, @gmail.com. And here we go.
Mike stinks.
There we go. Yeah, it's, how long
Stinky
have you had
Mike.
that for?
Couple years.
It's, have you cleaned the capsule ever?
No, I don't think I have.
It's,
I probably should.
Does it have? Because a lot of times they have a foam, shell underneath, and if you wash it, if you take it out, it's like this. It's like this, like just like this little graph of like. In my case, it was always like Nature's Valley bars. I would always eat Nature's Valley bars. And
I've done it with another one, and it was like, it just fell apart. Like it was stuck to the grill, and when I pulled it off, it like just, and even the grill was like raw, kind of like rusted through.
Yeah,
it was gross.
Yeah, no, I know that. That's
I could easily just buy another thing. I think.
But hey,
right?
man, if it's not broke, you know.
Yeah. For screaming into it'll be.
Well, exactly. Anyway, I don't even know what I'm going to call this podcast. This might just be something for you and me. I really don't know.
Well, this is nice to talk outside of a show.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, where we can actually have whatever long to talk.
Instead of like, nice to see you. And then like
great
3 or 4 hours later, it's like, all right, peace, man, next time.
I know. I was thinking about that, how many people might be bummed. Because I'm excited to see everyone. So it's like, hey... And then I do the show, and that's all that I kind of am able to give everybody.
I mean, like, so when you play, like, here's something when I'm done playing, I'm always thinking in like fan acquiry mode, you know,
like making sure
everything
you engage
you
the people
read is like says like make sure the merch guy is the first guy there and the last guy to leave. And meanwhile, my team is 0 and me 1.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially local shows where a lot of times it's mainly just your friends. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like hard for me to just like, I want to like mill about and like, I'm probably not missing sales or mailing list signups, but it's like, you know, do you think like, do you ever think like, shit, I should go over and check on the merch, you know?
Yeah, I do. I laugh at myself though, because I'll notice like, no, I'm not there. Mark's not there. Sean's not there. But then I just kind of like don't care. It's probably like, I think the whole span of things that I've done, if I cared more, I always am curious to like, I wonder like what level my band would be at. Because I'm like kind of, like maybe jaded is the word, but just kind of like, I definitely should care more, but I don't.
Well, I mean, yeah, should is kind of, I don't know how useful that word is really. You know, I feel like it's more useful in communicating to other people, letting you know that you've thought about it. But when you say I should do something and you haven't done it, it just means you just don't want to. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's really it. Well, that's part of it too. It's fucking boring standing by the merch and not talking to my buddies, you know? That's actually the one joy when we did have a merch guy, was that we did sell more because someone was there, but, you know, it was McGee. McGee was doing it, and we gave him a tiny bit of money, like $5 a day to do it.
But that was just like bleeding your operation dry.
Kind of, but
you got to get rid of this McGee budget.
Yeah. But like, Yeah, I don't. It's kind of like I don't care. I care. It's crazy. I care about all this shit, but at the same time, I don't.
Well, you're maybe I would say just observing. Maybe you're aware of it. You're aware of it. You care about it, sure, but you recognize as well that there's a limit to where do you want to place your attention? What do you want to, because God, if you listen to let's say if you listen to every health advisory there was out there, just taking it away from music for a second. Like, it's like, you're gonna eat those acai berries, you better not. You read that study. Did you read that study? It's like, it can be any place could just be like really it could be overwhelming. And, music same
for real.
way. So it's like,
For real.
what's important. And I would agree with you that the personal connection thing, I really think, like, whenever if I have the ability, if I get the chance to reflect before I die, that will probably be at the top of the list.
Yeah.
In terms of the important experiences. And I'm semi-cognizant of it now. Like, I do have aspirations to do this or that, but I'm pretty affirmed in being like, it's probably just going to be like this stuff where I'm chatting with people who I like or reconnecting, whatever. It's probably just going to be like different levels of that, and this is the experience which I will look forward to and look back on.
Well, you've been doing music too for a long time, and do you feel like, not that it's fruitless, but a lot of that sort of like, hey, have someone at the, because I've done that where like, we need someone at the merch table, we have a mailing list, and being upset that people aren't signing it or being upset that no one's manning it.
Right.
Like, we've both done it long enough that there's kind of like a reality to it too, where I almost have given up on trying to play the game of doing all the proper, here's how to, or here's all the suggestions. I've given up on that because I kind of feel like you can't, it's like a hard thing to chase, like success musically. I chased it for a long time and didn't really feel, I feel more successful now than I've ever. And I kind of care. I care about making the good music, but all the other stuff, like the merch, having a guy there, or like even the other day, me and the Sabs, I was talking about like, should we have our homepage, like greatsabatini.com? It's like, nah, fuck it, and then I see like other friends of mine who I admire and respect, and they have homepages that I'm like, fuck, maybe we should.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's like, fuck it, because I could go and do everything right by the books, and I feel like I'd still not make it for that goal to like become bigger. I feel like I would just constantly be disappointed. Like, I should just be content with where I'm at, and like, I definitely feel like organically shit'll go, Gerbert, we did this album thing, and we could have done more things, right? Like a homepage, or maybe it's just more. We could have done more. And it's like, well, here's what we did. It'll be what it'll be, and that's kind of it. And there's like, I find a lot of peace in that, because it's hard. It's admirable for people who fucking go hard at it and like register the band as a business and apply for every grant, and fucking hats off to those people, man. But I don't really have the time or the energy. Maybe that's part of it too. Like, I just want to play good tunes, play good gigs, and don't really want to do the business end of it, because I've done the business end of it, like my version of the business end of it, for so long. Kind of like, and I feel fruitlessly. Like, I wanted all this stuff, and I just kind of feel like I fell short of it. So,
yeah.
Even just to stop disappointing myself, it's like, I'm just gonna forget about that shit.
Yeah, I think that's like, from an observer standpoint, like, I have definitely talked to people who I feel like really don't have it together. Of course, I don't say that, but like, and they'll say similar things to you. But look, but knowing you as well as I do, for what it's worth, take it that like, I think you've done your part. So don't ever feel like, or I mean, if this can be of any help to you, like, just remember me saying that. I really think that I think you've done your part, and any whatever decision you've come upon with how you're operating now is the result of like a very genuine effort. And it's put you in this place for a reason. I
think you're right, man. Like, I would only have come to this point now Like I'm only here now because of all the stuff that I tried to do. You know, like your failures or what I perceived as failures or successes. Mostly failures as far as like I want to do this and do this and do this and like have a successful tour in the States where people like my band. I've tried it, so it's like I've tasted that fruit, I've sampled it, and I can step back and be like, hey, I can make a decision on experience. Like, well, in the end, that was really, really stressful. Too stressful.
Right.
And this shit shouldn't be stressful. It should be stressful when you're like, damn it, this riff isn't working. But not like all that back end shit. It sucks. It's hard. Because I'd love to have this shit really pay for itself and pay for the hall. I just fucking brought my van in to get a new fucking radiator. You know, and like, god damn, it'd be nice if the band could pay for that. And to get to that point, it's probably better if I do all these sort of right steps to do that. But it's kind of like, in the end, it's like I'd rather just be less stressed and just be like, I'm just going to, and I'm really banking on like, I'm just going to put all my efforts into writing good music and let that do the work. And it'll do some of the work. I know more of the back end could do more, but that's my like, I'll give a lot of myself to the good music part of it and way less to the back end of it.
Yeah.
Just for my peace of mind with it. That's probably why both of us are still doing it at this age. Because we both could have quit a long time ago.
Yeah, and most do.
Why do you think people do?
Because it's not as important. It's not as much of a priority. I think one of the things that you have to consider when you're talking about, or you realize when you're talking about other people. I mean, I'm sure, like, realize the fallacy in that. Realize the fallacy in, like, they don't think like us. It's so easy to do that, and I've had that conversation so many times. So I guess what I'm getting at is, like, if you were able to speak to every failed musician out there, I think that given enough time and enough explanation on their behalf, you could see why they arrived at whatever they arrived at.
For sure.
It's because you impose like when you're, I don't know, in bands in the past, one of the things I love is being able to, I mean, I think that was one of the best things. Like, I kind of wish that I would have decided to like do solo shit like from the get-go. I spent so much time just complaining, some of it legitimate, some of it not, about other band members' commitment and all of that. And I think that I forget why I was talking about this.
Well, no, I think what you're kind of getting to is hard to when you think of why other people might have stopped and this and that. Like, it's insane to think of what your life experience is like, and for you to think of what mine's like. I have a filter that is myself that's engaging with all of reality. So how can you not be biased to think how other people, like, that's how they think, that's why they did this, because you're only basing that on your experiences. It's impossible to really know why someone else is doing stuff. You're right. I'm at fault for thinking like, how could you kind of stop music? Like, if you really loved it, you'd figure it out. But that's based on my filter, that's myself, and applying that to other people.
Yes.
So yeah, it is something that when I think about people, why they stop, I need to just not question it. You know, people have their own paths, and I need to really not judge someone if they stop.
I think it makes it difficult when you're looking for sources of inspiration. However, some of my best, angriest music was a reaction to what it's like you have, I don't know, I have certain like very surprisingly small amount of interactions with other people that stick with me for. So a friend of mine who's a drummer, I met up with him at Disgraceland just down the street from my house after I moved to the place where I've been living for the last 10 years. And there was just, I don't know if it's the respect I have for him, but it was just like something he said offhand. We were talking about like students, teaching students, and like how he's like, man, these kids, a lot of these kids have like, it's like they're soulless. They have like no, they're not too like they you know, like get overexposed to a million activities. Parents just want the best for them, but then they sort of come out as these like lumps that don't really care one way or the other. So I think that's something that's really continued to be the axis of my my battle against this this idea. So like for a while, it was certain friends of mine who decided to like, you know, sort of get married, who did not sort of to get married, and I felt like that was like a weak concession.
Yeah.
And then I wrote some like my favorite riffs off that. Now that's short-sighted, and ultimately not helpful, because I think much as it's fun to complain about another, I find it's ultimately unrewarding. It just leads to more of that.
Yeah.
And you get these like cool conversations where you're like, I know, and we're talking about some dude from work, you know, and he never comes back from his break on time. You know, it's like some shit like that. And it's really rewarding because you can relate on how much you guys, this other dude pisses you off, and it's us versus them. Anyway, like in a creative pursuit, I feel like the redressing of grievances is so central, but yet it's misguided. So I guess what I'm getting at is whatever it is that I mean, Grabert sounds like you guys have a bone to pick with something or somebody.
Interesting.
If you removed, assuming there is some, I mean, I haven't read you guys' lyrics, but assuming there is, like, is there? Do you guys, when you write lyric, or do you guys kind of just like write lyrics? You're like, that sounds cool, you know, that kind of shit.
You know, this would be good to have Mark here for this. Mark writes all the lyrics.
Okay.
I used to write lyrics for the band, and mine are a lot different than Mark's. Mark's are dark and like more, I feel like, his take on his place in the chaos that is his world.
Okay.
And it might not be that he's living in chaos, but we all kind of are. Even before we started, like, I have my own home life, roommate shit, whatever. A little version of that from, you know, that's my little chaos. Aging musicians who are struggling, or anyone who's struggling, like, there's like a dream of like money to have things and peace and stability, and like debt is something that sucks, and like lack of freedom sucks, and someone's version of chaos, I feel like where Mark's coming from is him speaking on how he feels everything else is happening around him, and maybe like kind of putting a mirror on himself and engaging himself and questioning himself. Like, it's a good question to like the motivation of being still doing it. It's something that fascinates me though. Like, it's kind of like, because why why we put a lot of money and time, and even back to the topic of trying to stress out less about the back end and stuff. Like, we don't have to do this, so it's like, why do you fucking do it? And and I don't really, for me personally, it's not, the only bone I have to pick is with myself.
Okay.
To be the best version, and because I've been inspired by music, and it gave me so much. Like, as a young man and a kid, it was something that was like, it's powerful, right? It helps you through tough. It's so cliche, but it literally helps you through tough times. It helps you bond with people. It's this really magical thing that, like, I respect. So I need to bring my best version of myself forward. It's like music's like this god, and I want to sacrifice myself to it and bring the best sacrifice that I can to keep it going.
Right.
Because it's without it, it's totally like, no, for me without it, it's fucked. I'm fucked. So for Mark, like, I'm just speaking for myself, and I feel like Mark's kind of the same. Like, we both got so much out of it, and I don't know where he's coming from with it, but I know a part of it is that I feel like for everyone who still does it, it's because it's so special to them and they're part of something bigger, and it's like really this like godlike thing. Because why else would we do it?
Yeah, I often to myself and others, I would say it's there's just nothing else I want to really do that much. That's what
Like you
I'd
probably
say.
get a feeling from doing it.
Yeah,
Like when you write a song and you're like, this song is great.
Mhm.
That feeling, like trying to explain that feeling is impossible.
yeah. Well, as you just indicated with like say lyrical content, that was something I hadn't even considered. Like, again, because I'm looking at things through my lens, the idea that it's like, so when you write lyrics, which you do exactly the same way as me, which you don't, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
you know, it's, so yeah, I would like, it didn't even occur to me, like you could be, your what you write down could be a reflection of looking at your own situation, and it's not necessarily like, man, the government's fucking us over, you know, some shit like that.
No, and some stuff that people write is that.
Yeah,
You know?
that's my focus. And you remind me when you say stuff like that, you, like these different topics, you remind me that, I mean, there's anything under the sun you could be talking about. That's true, you know, it's true. So I think the creative experience, I don't know if there's common ground. I heard something on the radio that scientists are working on the ability to map out another person's thoughts, so that we could finally actually see.
Wow, so I could read someone's mind type stuff?
Yeah, it's like that philosophical thing. It's like, you know, how do I know that my blue that I see? What if to you blue is red? You know, but seriously, it's like
That's crazy. Yeah.
that's there's so much that we kind of by default have to just fall back on and be like, let's just accept the blue split, you know, because there's two worlds to the whole thing. I mean, if you intend to exist, you kind of have to exist within like a particular norm, and then there's something higher than that, I think. But anyway, the point being, like, I wonder if that would change everything to know another's, like, what you felt like when you're writing a tune, you know, what you feel like the sense of accomplishment. Because, you know, when you talk to some, like those memes, you know, it's like that feeling when you whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, and some of them are just stupid. I love how it's like been extrapolated to like these things that it's like, I don't know, can't think of it, but back to like, you know, that feeling, you know, that awkward moment when, and you're like, oh, I know that feeling. But it's like, do you know the feeling in the same way? Is it the feeling? Do we feel it the exact same way? Do we get, I guess, you know, if I'm mad or you're mad with certain things, like we're going to raise our voice. That's a fairly common reaction, but it's like, yeah, is the I guess just the creative experience. I wonder, how much different it is.
Well, that's what's crazy about the connectivity that anyone, I think, who does something a little different, and even it can be as simple as a parent. There's like connections that humans make based on things. Like, I'm reading this book, and I'm gonna fuck this up. I always say I'm gonna do this, but it's that book Sapiens by...
Oh shit, I've read that, man. We can talk about that all day if you want.
The one part that I thought fascinating
Yuval Harari.
That's right. You know, what's his name?
Yuval Harari.
Yuval. So I wrote it in my phone, like, shit to check out. Sapiens. And I wrote U-Haul. I was like, I'll figure it out. But yeah, I literally wrote U-Haul, like the rental company. But the idea of humans creating fiction and how that connects people, and how a stranger from Japan, and to me it just tied in like, oh, I could meet someone from Japan and be like, I love Burnt by the Sun. And they'd be like,
Yeah.
I love it too. We couldn't speak, but we would like trust each other.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the crazy thing about music, at least in this specific example with music, is that I feel like when you come from an honest place, for me, I connect most with the people who are doing the same. Mm-hmm. And it's not a fiction, but it's a thing. Like your creativity. And the people I respect the most are the people that I admire, that I'm like, oh, they're making the best version of music that they can. And it can even be any type of music, you know, like hip hop or fucking pop or whatever. Like, I like music because I feel like it's coming from a genuine place. And like, that's why we're buds, right? And that's why, like I told you too, you know, like the stuff you do is great. And it's also great because it comes from like a real place. And it's that connectivity that's like that community that we're part of. And again, to like why I want to serve that, because it's important. It's important for like, and even for us to morally support each other, because there's no money in this, you know, or a family, like two parents who are talking about raising their kid, like that community of like just bringing people up. It's like a tool to like help people. We're fucked. Most people not are all fucked, but I'll take all the help I can get. You know, I'm just one person with a limited life experience, and I feel like a lot of people aren't lost, but could use the help. So, just I don't even know how I got on this, but the connectivity, basically, what I'm talking about with music and musicians, is that crazy sort of inexplicable thing that's like, I get this feeling from it. I don't know what it's like for you to get that same feeling, but I know that it is real, you know, that it's not, or for me, it's something that I feel is real that I need.
Right.
You know, I don't know if that made sense at all.
I think so.
I'm drunk.
Yeah,
high,
exactly.
too.
Did the very he's got the very dad thing. He brought one beer each for us, bro.
Total dad
Got an
vibes.
early day tomorrow.
But
No, it's cool. I'm
it's-
driving.
It's I think what I was trying to say is like your blue and my blue, they could be completely different,
yeah.
but we both agree that it's blue. You know, like
Yeah.
your music.
Yeah,
my music.
okay. Yeah, I see that. And that ties back to your Burnt by the Sun fan from Japan. You guys could be pen pals.
Yeah, it's just an instant like, okay, cool. I'm part of your team. We're part of
Yeah.
the same team.
Yeah, absolutely. That book's, how far have you gotten in the book?
I'm on page 147.
Okay. Let me know when you get to the end. The end really fucked me up.
Huh.
That's when he talks
Did you
about,
buy it or rent it?
Oh,
Sorry.
I bought it.
That's when he talks about what?
He talks about the future. Yeah, and then I went down went down a road with checking out like YouTube videos on like artificial intelligence, and like that's my new thing. And I think for as you know, as our exponentially changing society, you know, it's like tomorrow more and more people, it will be their top of mind issue, and for good reason.
Well, yeah, I think that's really a thing that's coming, and I think about numbers, I think about timelines, I think about how we cannot comprehend 1,000 years. We only live 80 years, so
Yeah.
that's, you know, okay, double that. But even still, that's 160 years, like thousands and thousands. So the whole timeline, and to think about where AI pops in, and what our role is in that whole timeline of existence, is terrifying. Because it's like, I feel like, yeah, we're it's scary. Because, yeah, AI, I almost feel like we're a vessel for it to come. We're the caterpillar.
Yeah, I mean,
We're the caterpillar.
Is it beneficent? You know, is it going to be like, yeah, like the host, and then it'll burst out of you like an alien
And is it
kill
natural?
you?
Like, is it just supposed to happen that way?
I mean, I think that
I need a fucking joint right now.
I think that one of the things you can like the first chapter of Sapiens is called like a being of no significance, right, or something like that.
Something like that.
Just that page by itself although that notion was kind of familiar to me, it was set out in such a way that it's like, so right off page one, I'm thinking about that stuff. And then he makes that analogy with the Peugeot Lion Man.
The car company, yeah.
It's like, well, it's not actually, what is the company?
I know.
What is it? It's like they make cars, but the car isn't the company. The owner's dead.
Yeah.
They started out making bicycles.
Yeah.
I think, and then I listened to a couple of episodes of Sam Harris's podcast.
Shit, I've never checked that out. I should check that out.
Yeah, it's a little heady, to be honest, for me. It's like they delve into science and I get lost. But I don't know. I know some people who swear by it, and I'm not a huge podcast dude, to be honest. But like,
he's like kind of talking about like
it's an intersection between. It seems like it's an intersection between like the spiritual world and the scientific world.
okay.
I mean, I don't know if spiritual is the right thing, but like looking into like Buddhist concepts and how it relates. Like I think in Sapien, like he had Yuval on his show. Apparently,
word.
I haven't heard it, but
Okay.
I think
Yuval, you
U-Haul. Yeah, dude, U-Haul. Grandma's attic. Remember that shit?
do you think I just want to
Yeah.
say this
yeah,
before
yeah.
I forget? Do you think AI could like create? I guess it could create art. Like I think like could
Yeah.
AI write like a Sick Burnt by the Sun album?
I mean, I think yes. I think ultimately it could outshine us in literally everything.
Because it could be creative, but like what's AI's creativity versus like Sapiens creativity?
Well, imagine. Okay, like if you remove the whole je ne sais quoi of that we assume is there, it's the soul, whatever. I think with the idea of science being that we can test everything, I think that you can remove any specialness from any aspect of being human, and that will happen eventually. And I think that we can narrow down what quote unquote creativity is to actually, things that you can recreate. You can empirically recreate it. There's, it sets off this receptor. All this shit. I know it fucks with you because you're just like, well, why am I doing this?
Yeah, why am I here? Yeah, totally.
But again, I like my argument stays unchanged because it's like the thing I want to do the most. It doesn't change that. I think that's what I think, and what I heard from the Sam Harris podcast that made me think about it was it finally hammered home like the idea of like the significance of evolution, in that humans, the guy he had on was talking about, it's like, humans, I don't remember if I might be imposing my own thoughts onto this recollection, but he was like, people wondering what should I do with my life? What's my purpose? And if you look at evolution, have as many kids as you can, and that is it. We don't know why. Yeah. So maybe you can say there's a grain of spirituality in that. We don't know why the whole ball got rolling that way. But it just, that's the ultimate success in evolutionary terms, is pushing forward the species. Why is that important? I don't know.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
So
why is so many copies of the DNA a success?
And it was survival, but like, but what set the whole thing in motion? I guess that still goes into the world of the existence of God and all that stuff. But I guess what that did was it really pulled the rug out from under the idea of mine or anyone else's own specialness. It's it was disillusioning and humbling, certainly. But it just it takes a certain amount of the edge off, I guess, when you realize that like things are only as important as you as whatever you place on them. Like in Sapiens, what I took away from it was humanity was a runaway success as a species. Like cognitive revolution, like 40 to 60,000 years ago. All of a sudden, leaps and bounds, we can organize thousands of people. It's like no other species has been capable of doing that. We have overdeveloped brains. We're more intelligent. Therefore, we've been extremely successful, and we bend the planet to our will. It's almost like too successful. That's to the point where, you know, people are wondering if the planet can survive. So, but is there meaning to any of it? Like, no, I don't think so. I think there's meaning if you choose to. I think there's meaning on a relative scale, but not on an absolute.
I find that sometimes I'll find myself falling into that thought when I get really stressed out. Because, like, I have a kid, man. I have a kid. I love my son. I want him to be safe. But when I think about the world and what could happen to him, I'll sometimes de-stress by thinking, like, not that I don't love my son. This is going to sound maybe a little crazy, but, like, on the entire scale of time, I'm not significant. And to me, he is the whole universe. But in the whole timeline, none of us are significant,
right?
You know? So that helps me sometimes, because it's fucking really gnarly to have a kid, care about him. And, like, when I read stories of, like, just recently there was a flood, some water came up in Brantford, I think, and a 3-year-old got pulled into the water and washed away, and the fucking kid's dead. And then I just think, like, that's where I apply my filter of myself to the universe and the world, and I think, like, that must be the worst thing ever. Your kid fucking dying. And I'm a guy who will think worst case scenario for a lot of things. I don't know why I'm built that way, but something will happen and I'll instantly go to the worst case. So that's like a worst case, and I'll put myself in that headspace, and it's fucking crazy and terrifying. So then sometimes I'll be like, well, we're an animal. We've done well, you know. In 1,000 years, maybe there'll be 0 humans and just AI. So for a second, that'll calm me down.
I know exactly.
So it's a tool that I will use too. But
I mean, it's I mean, it doesn't. It's just playing more into your own mental games to know this, but to see that the reason why. You can't focus on that. You can't let that just lie like that is because, well, I mean, I can't break it down to simplest terms, but the way the mind is made up is such that we're going to hop to the next threat. What is it? And again, you just look at, like, how quickly humanity, most creatures that are still in the wild, it's just like, you know, you see, like, footage of, like, them in nature. It's just like their heads are just constantly like, bah, bah, bah.
Oh, yeah,
bah,
yeah,
bah,
yeah.
bah. You know, and always in my head when I see any of those, I'm just like, these guys get the chance to, like, chill or anything?
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I chill a lot.
Yeah.
And for humans, like, we've lost, like, I'm probably not going to get eaten by something. Yeah. I might get hit by a bus, but I'm not going to get eaten by something.
Yeah. Very unlikely that you're going to be, like, slowly eaten alive.
Yeah. So, it's we've lost that, but we still, because everything has evolved so quickly, it's we still have these devices in place to say, what's the threat?
Yeah.
What's the threat? And there's no fucking threat, but it's like it's been too quick. We haven't had the chance to drop that.
Yeah, we cheated. We bumped the line.
Yeah,
we,
I think so. We
really
killed that curve. Like,
yeah. It's interesting right now. I think about how, and I talk about sometimes on my own podcast, the fire. When people were in that book, when they were able to control it, how powerful that was. Yeah. And, you know, I'm sure people got burnt alive by accident, and Probably. They also used it as a tool. And, like, this connectivity, so you, like, fiction, people made fiction, and it enabled us to connect on a large scale. And then exponentially was the internet, the connectivity like that. And how byproducts, like, it's just, we've jumped so far ahead, and internet and mostly that, like, instant connectivity, it's insane to think what it's doing to us and what it's done to us. Social media, is one thing that's like happening right now. And I'll always question every post I see, every post I make. It's like, why am I doing this? I'm participating in a game, but why? Like, for musicians, I feel like it's easier because it's like, okay, this is a tool. I need people to know what's happening. So here's a connectivity tool. I'm going to connect with everybody. But then
it's like, why am I doing that thing?
Yeah, well, for that, yeah, I guess that's when I think about outside of that, when I'm doing it just my own sort of post, it's odd. It's odd. Like, why are we doing it? It's we're so caught up in the change. It's interesting to think of what historians, if there are historians, will look back at this time when, okay, again, because time, like when it was the internet, like 20 years ago.
I mean, in mass
50
version, yeah.
Such a blip of time. So in 100 years, 200 years to look back and be like, how did that change people?
Yeah,
so much, man. It's maybe been not the worst thing, but
I mean, it's, it depends on how you feel that day, right?
It's like fire. It's how you used it. Did you burn your offspring, or did you fucking cook the meat that you killed?
Yeah, it's it's all relative. And yes,
we went deep, man.
Yeah, dude.
Jesus Christ,
it doesn't take long. No, that's like, I know you. That's the thing. Like, I know you. I think that most people who I speak to any great length have, I guess it's just being inquisitive. It's and I think that's something that I value. Nothing is sacred, and nothing should be taken for granted. And a lot of it, I think, comes from really disliking.
Shit. Jesus, sorry, dude.
It's all good. It actually didn't clip at all. Oh, it's because you didn't hit a mic. But anyway,
break your computer.
I really hate posturing. I really don't like puffing out of chests, being like that kind of thing. And maybe it's, well, who knows what I was gonna say, because I do it, but I don't think I really do it. But I really don't like posturing. So okay, so I'm on the verge of forgetting why I brought up this thought. But I guess I don't know if it's related. Just like I don't want to consider myself contrarian, but when someone feels very strongly about a given thing, I want to prove them wrong. Or I want to at least consider the alternative. Especially if a large group of people are like that. It's like social media and has kind of just my first feeling when it came to, in my bubble in which I exist in social media, it's the world of social justice. And I do think that is my feeling, is it's an ultimately good thing. However, I see a lot of follower tendencies among people that make me automatically not want to jump on the train. I went to like a protest, first time ever actually, for me, and I went to a protest for, dude, I don't even fucking remember what the goddamn protest was for. It was like a, anti-immigration, an against the sort of anti-immigration movement.
Okay.
So, speakers from, Iranian immigrants or Middle Eastern immigrants talking about their experiences and how these people who want to close our borders are wrong. And I felt strongly about that. The whole, the Donald Trump thing. It's like, I felt strongly about it, but the whole chanting thing, I felt real uncomfortable about that. And I know, and I've thought about it a lot, and I think I just don't want to chant. I'll go, but I don't want to lend my voice. I feel like I am my own person, and I don't feel sincere joining my voice with others.
I think that's good to recognize that you won't just follow to follow.
Yeah.
I think it's as simple as that, you know, like you can go and support it, but if you don't want to chant along, that's where your line is, and that should be fine.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe it's something... The whole... and again, might just go back to people and tribalism or what, this and that, and social media and attention that people crave.
Yep.
Which is sort of a tangent off of love. You know, if you have people that paying attention to you, if people like my band, I feel loved. So it's again, it might tie into, like, I'll just use this example with music. When someone's playing something, I don't feel like it's coming from the heart. I just don't connect with it. And like for in this instance, something like that, maybe a lot of people were chanting, and this is maybe a bad example, but if you aren't feeling that it's a genuine thing to do, that all these people are doing it, or not even chanting, but just like certain aspects, certain avenues of people attending things or people supporting things, it should be authentic. I think authenticity is important, but I guess again, everyone's version of that is different. So it's I guess, do you have like a distrust? Is it a distrust of people? Maybe.
That's a good question. I don't know that I've ever really boiled it down. I'm, like I said, I'm not into posturing. I'm not into self-righteous behavior.
Because you feel like it's wrong.
Yeah, I do. I think that rallies like that I went to can turn into us versus them. Now, who else does that? Anti-immigration people.
No.
It's us, and we don't want them. It can become exactly the same thing.
It can become that, yeah. It's gray, right? Because you're there to have a voice and to, you know, ideally make it so that it's not a black and white thing where it's like, no, they are not, none of them are coming in. It's like, well, that's not realistic.
Yeah.
Some of them should be let in. Should all of them be let in? I don't fucking know. I'm not the guy to make that decision at all.
I mean, from a just a general procedural standpoint, I would probably say no absolutes, please. But then again, I'm sure someone in here could say, well, what about human rights? What about rights for everyone? You know,
it's
shit
hard,
like that.
Man.
So I mean, this is, I feel, getting out of my depth, not because I'm incapable of processing it, but because I haven't given it the amount of thought. And this is more of an aside, but yeah, I guess the whole, yeah, I guess it's, I don't know. I don't think I have problems trusting in people. I think crowds are dangerous. I think groupthink is dangerous. And I think that, and I also find it really interesting. I find it difficult, but interesting to listen to, the others, quote unquote, the others' viewpoint. Like when I just lost Sirius XM radio in my car. It was free. They didn't cut me off for 5 years.
Holy shit,
awesome.
I'm in that same boat right now.
Are you?
We bought a used vehicle and we have XM radio.
Amazing. Dude,
but
it was like,
I guess they'll cut off at some point.
Well, I kept saying that for 5 years, man. And now I'm fucking like hooked on it. I'm listening to CBC radio, which is actually I like a lot. And I never
I saw you got on CBC.
What do you mean?
Jack Moves.
Yeah, thank you.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. It's
I've been seeing lots of stuff pop up, man.
Yeah.
Like, are you working with the PR guy?
No, I just I emailed about 1 million people.
Fuck. Well, that's what PR guys do, man.
Yeah.
So you're your own PR
PR
guy.
is like, PR people have advised me against paying for PR. It's insane the amount. I mean, you guys probably work with Josh at some point, right?
Oh, sorry, Josh?
Josh Hogan?
No, we work with John. Asher. He's from Montreal.
Oh, okay. He does really good work too. We did Great Sabatini with him. He was
yes.
He was
with
very
Lee,
effective. I was impressed.
He was. Me too. I really was, man. But you're so true, because I think like all the years I've been playing music, had I kept track of emails and made a little effort to make relations with these people, I could do the same shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I think, if you get beyond a certain level, then you'd pass that off. And much as I would love to to feel important enough to pass that off,
it's money too.
I know, yeah. And we're talking like for a lot of PR agents, it's like $1,000 to $2,000 to do anything.
Yeah.
And you're not even guaranteed. It's not like they can make someone want to cover you.
That's the crazy thing about that expense, where it's like it's kind of, you're just throwing it in the air. It's not like here's a mic I bought.
Yeah.
It's like, there it goes.
No.
Into the ether.
And you could probably ask to audit your PR person's like email list. You're like, see, I emailed 800 people.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you did.
Yeah. 6
Fuck,
people got back to you.
I guess people don't like me.
That's
no,
the,
I know.
That's the tricky thing too, though, right? Like the idea of, we're going off on another tangent here, but how long? Like, I'm good to go. Like, I don't know how long.
No, I'm not in any hurry. It's just open ended.
The investment, like to the point where it's like, where do you take yourself seriously and where you don't? Are you willing to drop $1,000 on something that you might not see the money back on? When should you do that?
Well, it's like, at what point would you consider that to be foolishness?
Yeah, I know. Fuck.
I know a guy who made some. He's a well-meaning guy, but he made some pretty misguided, like, who put out like ads in magazines, like full-page ads.
Which is funny, because that's like, do this. These are things you should do, but it's not
that's
as simple
like
as that,
a
right?
marketer in this world. Like I was listening to the CBC today, and they were talking about what's the name? Simon, I forget the name. There was a security, or it wasn't a breach, but this marketing company collected all this Facebook information.
Oh yeah.
From a bunch of users.
Fuck. Some Cambridge Analytics or something like that.
I think so, something like that. So, and they were just talking about how fine-tuned this marketing targeting is now. So like, it's like firing a blunderbuss, like a 16th century rifle marketing, to do something like put out a full-page ad in some magazine where they generally cover your market. It's and you're unknown, by the way.
Yeah.
You're unknown. That's the extreme version of that. It's like, yeah, so what do you have to, it's the old adage, like, you got to spend money to make money. It's like, but when you've done it for a decade plus, you're like, when's the other part of this come?
Yeah. No
does it really come?
Does it ever come? Yeah.
Does it come like a avalanche? Because I don't know how this is going to get recouped at this point.
Yeah, for real, man. I'm really interested in how, like, you're going hard. You're going fucking hard. I see all the activity, man, and it's like, how is it? Is it too much work? Are you seeing some return? Because like when I saw that CBC thing, I was like, fucking right.
Yeah,
good.
Thanks.
That's like not like Buddy's blog. It's like, okay, it's like adds to your resume, which is a silly thing to say, but it's the truth.
No, absolutely.
And you're going really hard. Is it too much, or like how are you handling it?
Well, I mean, my adage is, what's the alternative? Anytime you find yourself in doing something and asking yourself, what's the point? The next question to ask yourself is, what's the alternative? I had a conversation with a friend of mine via Facebook the other day, and he was going through something that we all go through at various points, which is basically asking that question, what's the point? And it's very tied to the internet, but it doesn't have to be. But in his case, he's talking about just like, I do all this stuff, I put it out there, it goes into the void. And that's most people's struggle is that. It's because most of us, like if you look at the pyramid of the entertainment world, most of us sit in the noise pit potentially forever. And then we sort of come to our own realizations during that time, and then make peace with that. That's I think that's kind of the goal, and that's in broader ranging terms. You and I think both have, and then it's just when your mind suddenly telescopes in on one thing, like you're like, fuck that website, like need that website, it's stupid, and then you get off on this thing, but it's not. I don't think it's the absolute truth. Anyway, like yeah, I think that so my buddy was like kind of like, you know, he was kind of discouraged, and so I just more or less asked him, it's like, well, what would you do instead? Like, you want to be like an entertainment journalist, you do this work, but you want someone to like pay you for it. And he's like, you know, I don't know, go back to school for it. And I'm like, that's a bias that I have. Go back to school sounds like tail between my legs, like type of shit. Like it's over. And you know what? That's not necessarily valid either. Like, you know, you could find a career that you love. It's of course, it's not one way or the other. For me, at least right now, I'm not saying I'm never going to go back to school, but I do, as a point of pride, I'm proud to say that I have not gone back to school for another thing. And part of the reason is because I think I would not enjoy my existence as much if I did, even if I went back and you know, went back for HVAC or whatever. I think I would. I just don't think I'd do it. You know, we're talking earlier about like stuff coming from the heart. Like, here's a question: like, do you think it's possible to do stuff that is misguided and not from the heart? Because I usually feel like I have a pretty good filter. Like, if something is like, this is like, if I mean, I think this is a great conversation, but if for whatever reason I listen back, or you're like, yo man, that thing I said about, you know, immigration, please, you know, don't air this.
As an immigrant, fuck immigration.
Yeah, my wife would be really mad. No, but like, you know, I feel like I have a strong enough filter that I would just eventually stop doing. I'll give you an example. Like today, I put up some photos of the show,
the live
that
show
I did,
the release.
Yeah, and one of the dudes in the photos, because they're really good photos. One of the dudes, he put up a post, like I posted it. I would have liked it if he would have linked it to say this was Jack Move's show. He didn't. I thought about typing in the comment section like, from Jack Move's show, and then I was like in the middle of that sentence, and then I was like, this feels wrong, man. If I like put myself in his shoes, see this dude, like, he doesn't really know me that well, so he'd just be like, oh, this fucking asshole just will not let it alone, you know? Like, so I guess what I'm asking is, can you, like, do you feel like you have a good alarm that goes off if you're doing, and this doesn't, I mean, well, probably this is most relating to music, but it's just with regards to being like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I do. I feel I just really know it's different though for us. I feel like, because you're going hard, and I'm not going as hard as you are. I'm not
I would say if you valued wife and kids in musical terms, you'd be on my level. But yeah, so okay.
Yeah, maybe if I didn't have like the wife and kid at home, I would have the time.
I mean, I'm just saying you've done two things that me, like 9 or 10 years ago, would have been like, you fucking idiot. And yet you still managed to like do an East Coast tour or something like that. Like, man, that's impressive.
I would say that same thing about myself too.
Yeah.
I think I know. I know my musical self fairly well and all the aspects of it that tie into the whole game fairly well. In that exact instance, like you, I feel like I'd have the same sort of instinct to be like, who cares? Like, I'm pretty self-deprecating that's probably part of my filter where I'm like, no one cares about me. You know,
Okay.
like, why am I going to bother to correct this or correct that? Because it's kind of like, in a way, putting my chest out. Like, I'm important. I don't think I'm important. Maybe that's my whole goal, is to try to feel like I am important. I know
Okay.
I'm important, but
Right.
kind of at the same time I don't. And I don't know what'll ever do that, at least in the musical world, right? I know people like my band, but there's like, I use that to like push myself more, and my inner sort of, in my heart, and I'm again just back to that example, I would have the same sort of like, I would stop myself from like, from this, or tag me, or all that other stuff. It's hard. We care about this so much. So
Yeah.
you can't not be aware of everything that's tied to it. But then, yeah, there's that point of like, where am I caring too much? Where is this consuming me too much? And I've been that version of like, I need to correct this, or I need to make it like, me. I've been that guy to no avail.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So do you feel like that's a strategy that you were just like, this doesn't work, let's not do this
kind
way
of,
again?
yeah. It's like, yeah, it just doesn't work. I'm not good at it. I'm not confrontational. I'm not super self-confident. So all those things just tie into like pretty passive with it all. Like the other day, someone wrote a bad review for the new Bear record,
Oh yeah.
and I was fucking writing
A response.
a response. But it was a genuine, like, I appreciate that you didn't just say we're a great band.
It was a mature response. Yes.
It was a real review from someone who doesn't like the band.
Right.
And I wanted to tell him, thank you for being real. I appreciate realness. But even that, I had to stop myself. I'm like, why the fuck am I gonna... Why?
Yeah.
I can have that in my own head and not have to let this guy know.
Right. I mean, I guess maybe the question with that would be, is there some form of validation you were seeking even in
That's it.
writing that?
That's what it would have been.
And it was you being like to this guy being like, see, I'm not your normal.
Yeah.
I'm not like other girls.
Totally.
You know?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm special.
And like, you see, like, it's not that I care that you don't like me, but I just want you to see that I'm different than those other guys, so maybe I can still see that you value me in some way.
Yeah, it's for real, man.
I mean, like, I heard Paul McCartney say that, like, he's like at 70 whatever years old, like, still, like, the bad reviews still stick with him.
Ha, yeah.
I mean, that's fucking Paul McCartney.
And you know what? Even the bad review itself didn't bother me, because I'm realistic.
Yeah. No, I believe.
I'm like,
I believe you.
Of
Yeah.
course not. If everybody liked my band, I'd be a super famous band.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody likes my band, and that's normal, and that's fine. Because I don't like everybody's band. You know what I mean? That's so normal. It's like you're lying to yourself if you're like, I like everything. You don't like everything. Certain things you don't like.
Yeah.
And if I was a reviewer, I should say the truth about, like, I personally don't like this. I'm a filter. Here's my words. I was a kid. I was brought up in this place. I listened to this. My dad was that. I like this mac and cheese versus that.
Yeah.
So it's really like, it was a good review. It was bad, but it was good, because
Right.
all of them were generally good, and that's nice. But it's just, you never know. I know what I did. This was my version of a good record, and that's kind of where it ends. It's like, I put it out there. People like it. People hate it. Cool.
Yeah, it's
I love the support. I love it. I love that people. Sorry to cut you off, but I love that people would be like, it's a great record. But how many people would actually be like, no, actually, it's a shitty record? Not that many, I don't think.
I would say this is almost
Just because people are nice.
it's it's a smaller point to make. I think that I don't know that I endorse unfavorable reviews on acts that aren't, say, making some kind of a living off of touring or something. Like Exclaim generally, they suggest not bothering. Like I wrote for them for a little bit, and they kind of caution against like try not to write bad reviews if it's like a local band or something. You know, it's like why give someone bad press at that point?
It's interesting because it's true. I see both sides because it's like that's the crazy thing. It's like a double-edged sword. Of course, you want to support people. We need it. But at the same time, like, how are you going to get better if people aren't critical of you?
There is that too, and you said that the review was you know it was well written.
Well written.
So yeah, so you can't, and I'm the same as Paul McCartney. Like I remember some like those those bad reviews, and the ones that are even the ones that I don't feel like were particularly thoroughly thought out and composed. I would still like mine them for like possible things. Like
that's great because that's being honest. That's like not lying to yourself.
Well, it's because again, like I'm at no point have I thought. I mean, there is a part of me that's just like man, do these guys know? Like know how much effort I put into this and like where my head's at. I sometimes I feel like that, but it's not. I'm not infallible, and and something that I said once to my student, a guitar student of mine. I said, he was like really into guitar. He's like 13, and I was like, man, eventually this kid will probably be a wicked guitar player. He was like super sloppy at the moment that I was teaching him. But then like sure enough, 5 years later, he was like, I was teaching at a different store, and he was like the co-op at the store, and he was like an uber shredder. Like not surprisingly, it's so I told him something that in my head I was like, I hope he takes this with him. So he was like he wanted to learn like Velvet Revolver, and we were talking about Slash. He was he loved Slash, and I forget why it came up, but I was just like, I just told him like, there's some stuff that Slash can do that you probably won't be able to do as well. And there's some stuff that you can do that Slash won't be able to do as well. And I'm not saying you in the future. I'm saying you now.
Yeah. Right.
I think there's a limitless amount of facets to any subject. So who am I to make a quality judgment? I think one of the best things you can do is not see your idols as something that is not achievable. I mean, I don't think you should really focus on trying to compete with your idols either, but I don't think you should think of them as like, be like so-and-so, he's a genius.
Yeah, like the end result, like that's when you're done.
Yeah, it's again, it's a fiction. It's something we just decide to impose. But why give them that otherness? Here's another example. Like, I was reading like some Donald Trump book, not The Art of the Deal, but one of the other ones. And it was like, I was just reading the first few pages, and it was like, okay, so if you could earn your ideal amount of money, or if you could, this might not come out exactly right, but would you see yourself as earning A, $100,000 a year, B, $200,000 a year, C, $300,000 a year, 4, 5,000, or D, $500,000 a year? And I was like, well, probably like 200,000. Like that's good enough. And then I read down, and rightfully, he's like, why wouldn't you just? There were no qualifications. Like, if your name's Mike Simpson, then you should pick this. If you could make $500,000 a year and money was important to you, let's assume that factors in there, because I've told this to people and they've been like, well, I don't really fucking care that much anyway. So let's assume that it is important to you. Why would you automatically bow out and take that's an issue that could be an issue of it's like self-love and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's it's what I was thinking of when you were talking about that was you can be confident in yourself, but also at the same time you have to be not confident to continuously achieve more. You know, I guess in this sort of thing, like if you just settle at like a certain X amount slash or $200,000, that's of course you need to have confidence and confidence to get to that point. But yeah, I think the advice you gave to your student was great because it's everyone should really try to fucking reach their potential. It's such like, a lifelong journey.
I think it just took away. Hopefully, it took away barriers. It took away the idea that anything was sacred. That anything was off limits.
Yeah, hopefully,
to no longer see anything separating you between you and like one of the most revered guitar players in rock of the last 30
yeah.
years.
Well, that can be so detrimental to someone when they're like, "Oh, I'm not as comparing yourself to other people is terrible."
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
you should.
I do it all the time, but then I have to step back.
I did that for so long as a drummer, and hated how I played as a drummer because I was just comparing myself to. I knew I had a pin. Oh no, I still have it. Sweet. So I knew I lost it, but I didn't lose it. What I do is I compare. Not even compare. I'm not comparing. I'm watching and inspired by these monster drummers where I used to compare and be like, I'm never gonna be that guy. I'm never gonna be that good. And it's like, yeah, you're never gonna be him because you're not him.
Exactly.
You're gonna do you and do you to whatever best version you can. And that's that. Even that thought, like hopefully for that kid that. He won't have that sort of at least hang-ups that I had.
Yeah.
Like again, I think about the band all the time I would have put into it, and I'd be at this level of success. And me as a drummer, if I had just thought different, where I'd be now.
I mean, it's it wasn't meant to be. This is, I guess. But even if we entertain the possibility that could have happened, I think you would have probably crashed and burned and really kind of been awash in your own kind of inadequacies.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I just wouldn't be me right now, sitting who I am, and that's something that like. Well, I'm gonna say this is the beer talking, but like just accepting who you are is so important. To, like, I'm 30. I'll be 35 next month, and I'm still not 100% comfortable in my skin. It's like a lifelong thing to be accepting of who you are, but at least as a musician, that's so important to not give up on who you are, but to accept it and work on it, and not just give up. Like that could be like a big. That's a kind of a whole theme with all of this, man. Like as a species, to not just. Well, no, never mind. I'm half drunk. That wasn't gonna make sense at all.
You got that.
I'm a dad, man. Fucking one tall boy. I'm fucked. But as a band, to like accept what you can do and work on that. As a person, accept who you are and work on that to be better. Just to be the best version that you can. Don't sell yourself short.
Absolutely.
Like, and I constantly tell myself that all the time. I fucking struggle with. I still struggle with shit. Like, even as a drummer, I'm constantly like, I'm terrible, and I know I'm not. But it's a thing. It's like a wrestling match. Like, no, you're not. But you got to get better.
Nah.
But you're not practicing. But you are. But like,
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's part of the fun. Maybe that's like the part I'm addicted to.
True.
Is that like struggle? Because if you don't have struggle, it's kind of like, why are you here?
Right. Exactly.
Like, and that sounds silly, but maybe that ties into like we were animals, right? And we had a struggle of like surviving. So now we're surviving on like fucking easy mode.
Yeah.
So now we have these new sort of things to like, why am I here? What's my point?
Well, yeah, and I think that that relates back to that relates back to that whole talk we had about struggling and me being like, writing these finger-pointing lyrics that were inspirational at the time. But, I don't know. Maybe we could redefine the word struggle, because that sounds unpleasant. I don't think that I remember I used to play, with this guy, he was a guitar. He played guitar in a band. They famously to him, they opened for Guns N' Roses in like '87 before at like Ricoh Coliseum. Before Guns N' Roses was weird because it took them like a year or two into Appetite for Destruction to like.
Okay.
It was the touring that actually brought the record onto the chart. They
That's
initially,
sort of like Nirvana, right? With Nevermind. Did
yeah,
they tour
it did
forever?
not. It did not like immediately explode.
Huh.
So,
So he opened for them in '87.
yeah, in like '87, and then fast forward like 20 years, and he wanted to form another band and do this other, and do this other thing. And he had since gone into a career, like repairing computer mainframes, and I guess decided that something was missing. Anyway, he was a smart guy, but like just the wrong place to try and live your rock and roll dream. It just didn't happen. And he hey buddy,
Hey.
we're doing a podcast. I thought you were in town. Do you want to
you
come
just
join
get in?
I came back to fucking rip a jam, but I literally just got back into town.
Yeah. How was the drive?
Oh fuck, it was long. Like 5.5 hours.
Yeah, I figured
Whoa.
you'd get in late. I'm fucking half wasted, bro.
Yeah, we had a beer.
I had a beer.
Oh,
Total dad vibes.
fucking right.
Yeah, bro.
Well, how long are we doing? How long is this right now?
That's probably like almost an hour and a half.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Are you guys done or? Like,
Well, I don't know.
I think I was gonna shoot for 2.
Word.
Is that okay? Is
yeah,
that cool?
no, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go take a shower and I'll be back.
Okay.
Word.
Let me give you a hug before I go.
All right. Who, me or Mike?
Both you guys.
At the same time? Good to see you, man.
So where are you coming from?
Smith Falls.
Oh wow. Okay. Where's that?
It's maybe
Near Ottawa, right?
Yeah, it's pretty close to Ottawa. It's a trek, man.
Made it back, man. Good to see you.
Fuck, I know. Yeah. Right.
Oh shit. Sounds good, man.
Birds. Can you bring back that weed?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, you got that weed.
Yeah, if you're coming back here.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just be like 20 minutes and I'll be back.
Whatever, that's perfect.
Word. All right.
Sick.
See you in 20-ish.
Nice. Yeah. That was cool. That would have been awesome if he was just like, "Hey man, let's chat."
Yeah, I'm sure he's burnt. Like Mark is. I'm happy because he's got a good job now, but it's a hard job.
Yeah. Hey?
So yeah, like I know when we jam, he's exhausted.
Yeah. Well.
So I'm not surprised that he's just looking to just fucking. Like me and him literally probably should jam because we have a show on Saturday, but
Oh, right. You're playing in Hamilton.
Hamilton, yeah.
That's
It's good. I feel it's good. It's more good. He's my, I don't want to see anyone that I love be in a bad place. And not that he's in a bad place, but he's working a hard fucking job. So
right.
fuck that.
Well, you have to make
Not
sure
fuck
your
that,
shit's
but-
together. So
Yeah, no, it's that thing, man. Like we commit to this at the expense and sacrificing, some personal livelihood. And I'm struggling with that now too because like I really wish, I joke with Viv that like I'd be a different person, but at the same time it's like I kind of wish I was just like a guy that went to school and got a good job and just took 2 weeks off a year and be fine, because for the family that would offer us just more security. We have a home, but it's not like we're like breathing away, like our heads are above water, but maybe like our nose, maybe
Right.
one nostril.
right.
So it's good that he's figuring out some sort of security, because fuck being hungry and being uncomfortable. Fuck that, man. We've done it. We've all done it. So
Yeah.
and it's worse as you get older. Like we feel it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just listened. I didn't listen to all of it, but you interviewed B.A. Johnston.
Yeah.
So did he have any words on that? I just met him for the first time when I played with him. Two weeks ago.
He just
Because he's like been doing this longer than either of us.
I know. I just feel like he's at peace with it. It's just like
He seems very he was
Yeah.
far less, to talk to him when he was not on stage. He was far less animated than I would have thought he would have
off
been.
stage.
I would have thought, like, does he smoke a lot of weed?
I don't know.
I
maybe
didn't even see him
maybe
do
at
it.
home.
But he seemed like that, like, or I mean, that could have just been his temperament.
No, he's B.A. Johnson, so you
Yeah.
would think that he's on 100% all the time.
Yeah,
I really got the vibe that he's just at peace with his lot that he's chosen. Like, he chose and he chooses to be that and to play that and to do his thing. So there's probably a ton of peace with that. Just like, it is what it is.
yeah.
And I'm going to enjoy it while I'm here. There's a buddy of mine posted on Facebook about just the present and how important it is to just enjoy the present. We worry about the past and the future, but like right now will come and go. It's literally coming and going.
Yes.
And it's like, how do you fucking enjoy and try to appreciate the present? I think maybe with BA, he's in the present.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
really there.
Yeah, it's I mean, to what degree do you think it's possible to through repeat action to change your own, do you think it's possible to tamp down the amount of concerns you have over time, so that you can just again, there is nothing that I am aware of currently threatening you or I, yet even periodically as I'm speaking or listening to you, so the various things are going through my head about to-dos or health concerns, all this stuff. Do you think that over time you can kind of, if your head's in the right place, as I believe yours and mine are, and we're like, man, that whole other stressful way of being kind of sucks. Now I just have to make myself believe it.
Yeah, I think through repetition, it can reinforce certain ideas. So let's just use BA for example, where he, literally through repetition of just doing it and doing it and doing it, probably just reinforces for him, at least in this whole topic of doing it, that it's still fun and that it's still worth it, and that even I guess for myself, where like a certain repetition of stamping down worries eventually becomes truth, because it's like, well, it's still like, for him it still is fun, or for me, like, I'm still making it at work, so why am I going to worry? It's it's working, so why waste energy and time worrying about it? Like, does that kind of answer the question? Sort of?
I guess just a lot of what we've talked about is questioning oneself and your activities. Why am I doing this?
Motivation
I think has
of
come
why.
up
Yeah.
a few times, and yeah, I guess I'm just curious about again, like a point I made earlier about an evolutionary thing being that we're sort of pre-wired to constantly be thinking about the next thing. Is that something that during a lifetime one can, like touring is great for that. Let's talk about something we both know pretty well. You roll into one town, you have a good show, but there's no one there. Do the same thing again 3 times in a row. I find is like that's a difficult one. That's like a staring like existence in the face kind of deal. And real. That's it's like some like, I don't know, some like Fight Club kind of shit where I just I feel like Brad Pitt being like like burning myself and the acid just being like, you gotta feel it. And it's so I guess those are really the points when you question your own motivation. Yeah. So is it possible to be faced with that stuff, and during you start off with a fucking just like feeling like shit when that stuff happens, to like actually meaning it when someone asks you how the tour went or whatever, or how this show went, and you're like, it's good. Yeah. And you're not bullshitting. You're not like just putting on because I've done that plenty of times before.
You reinforce that idea of why you're doing it. You Tugnut, man, we fucking ate dog shit for weeks on the end. Like the one U.S. tour we did, it was maybe a month of dates in the States, and maybe like 3 of them were good, or something.
Yeah,
like
that's harsh.
we ate complete dog shit and came out of it, and it was still like, I still like playing.
Yeah.
But you don't know. It's like the burning your hand thing. You don't know how long you can take it until you actually do it. You don't know how long you can hold your breath until you're underwater holding your breath. Like, okay, I can hold my breath for a minute. But you don't know until you're in those shoes. So even throughout life, like, you are, whatever it is, the repetition of an idea, like, things are going to be, even simple as that, things are going to be okay. Things are going to be okay. Things are going to be okay. And then it's like, oh, things are still kind of okay. It's like, all right, I didn't know they'd still be okay. I've endured all this shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's your version of okay? I'm still alive and I'm still breathing. Your show is you play a show. Fuck, I enjoyed the show. No one was there. That fucking sucked. And it was hard.
Yeah.
But it's a fucking kiln. It's like, whatever. You
Yeah.
throw it in the kiln, and the idea of like doing it as you're getting older and playing music and suffering, whatever, for your art or whatever it is, a family, like suffering for your family. Like, it's the kiln. It's so hot. And you'll find out what you were made of, really, and your motivations. Because we could have stopped easily. We've both been tested. 3 shows, 4 shows, 6 shows, 12, 14 shows in a row where nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Thank fuck that it's been a long time since that's happened.
Right.
But still, you won't know how much you can take until you're, and even maybe still, like, fuck. Radiohead, I know they were huge and famous, and there's some documentary where they were miserable. So even at that point, I wonder if they were thinking of quitting. So I've never been to that point. I don't know what it's like to be in a super successful band. Maybe I would get to that point. All my dreams would come true. Everyone would like my bands. And then I'd be like, you know what? Actually, I don't like this.
Yeah. I mean, and
know.
that's the truth right there. I mean, yeah, you have no way of knowing. I think my suspicion is that you would, if you didn't fix the furniture inside the house, no matter where you end up, it's gonna be the same.
Word. Yeah. Yeah.
So what this is like, it made me think of is like, talks like this are especially hard for like dudes in hip hop. Like, think of how hard it is if the majority of people who are rappers have to project an air of success.
Fuck.
And
yeah, no doubt,
most of them, I feel like there's probably more rappers per capita than like any other.
Well,
I'm guessing, because how easy is it to say you're an MC? And,
for real. Yeah. I wonder, man. That's really interesting.
And then I just remember because I saw a local show at the Studio Bar in Toronto, and it was like 4 dudes doing this, like, I forget the exact rap, but it was something like I'm making these or I'm stacking these millions, and she swallows my children.
Okay.
Like,
and there's like 20 people in the crowd.
There wasn't even that, dude. It was like I was one of like probably less than 10. And and it's like a rap show in particular. I like the crowd is like has to be there. Well, for it to be like truly successful, because you need someone to like a hype rap show is hype because of the crowd, I think, more so than the MC. The MC is this godlike figure who comes out, rap. Saw Danny Brown, that was it. He probably like sang 50% of.
Did you see him with Action
shit.
Bronson?
No,
Toronto.
He was him and a zillion openers who I didn't know anything about.
Oh, shit, okay.
No, that would have been cool. But Action Bronson, too. I cannot imagine Action Bronson trying that hard at a show.
Definitely got to be harder, man. It's, well, if that's the avenue you're taking, I wonder at what point you just accept, like shit. I'm rapping about being successful, and I'm not successful by my own standards in my words.
Yeah.
Like, at what point you're like, I'm out, or you're like, no, I'm committed to this.
Yeah.
I wonder.
If you're just, like, kind of living this lie, like, wouldn't that be... I mean, I know that rap is just, like, all about hyperbole, and everything is to be taken with a massive grain of salt. But, I don't know, it's just, like, I feel like that would, like, really... you'd be floating into, like, just lying to yourself territory, the kind of shit we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But I also, like, I don't know how many rappers do like a self-booked
Word. That's a
East
good
Coast
point. Yeah.
tour.
Yeah, I don't feel like a lot do. A lot aren't out there eating shit. You ever listen to GDP?
No.
Man, he's from New Jersey, and what I liked about him most was that it's like, oh, he's rapping about booking the next gig from a payphone and going into overdraft. Oh, he's got one great line about like somehow like you think this is cool, but like being an overdraft is like not a luxury, and it's just like, oh wow, like he's literally in a van touring, but I
Right.
feel like that's an oddity.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's I'm really curious about that. My buddy Andy from Column of Heaven, Endless Blockade, he's been producing hip hop beats lately. And sort of has been, he basically sent me a message. He's like, who are some Toronto rappers? Like, it's just like, didn't even know. There's a few events that go on in the city that, and he went to some of them. And, but just like, I was thinking, it's like with rap, it's like, it seems like for the most part, it's like, the internet. I don't know what happened before the internet. I guess everybody was like on the street corner, like handing out mixtapes or CDs.
You hear about that, right?
Because like none of them play shows.
Yeah.
And then these like 18-year-old kids, like SoundCloud rappers, blow up
Like that
out of
6ix9ine
nowhere.
guy? You ever hear that guy?
Yeah, you dress up like a
rainbow
freaking
Pokemon or something,
Starkist,
yeah.
like or Skittles package or something, and and.
Well, that's the interesting thing is that it's a whole other avenue. It's literally a different genre of music, but the strategy to make it is so much different
It's
than
fucked, yeah.
the grassroots, like two people at your
So,
show become four. And,
it's like
and,
the grassroots organic way is like, I think that was something I was gonna say earlier. It's like when we were talking about, it's like, don't you like? Were you amazed at how slow things progress? Like
for this stuff, like,
yeah. Like I thought I had my definition of slow, and it's like, okay, now cut that in half.
I don't know. Not so much surprised. Not really.
No,
No, it's funny because like I see my band, Gruber, what we just did in our, whatever the success is, plays, downloads, people at shows, tags, whatever. And I kind of feel like, oh, it's about in line. And I think, you know what it is, man? I think it's No Doubt. I think when I was a kid, I remember hearing that No Doubt were at it for 10 years before they blew up.
Yeah, that's true.
So in my head, I'm like, oh, it takes 10 years. And then if you're lucky, something like that happens. So I'm kind of like, oh, this is normal. Like 10 years in, like, yeah, we'll have like 20, 30 people at a show. That seems about right. If it was different, it'd be like, whoa, what's happening? Like
Right,
almost
right.
uneasy. Like, oh, I didn't expect this.
Oh, well, that shit is like, yeah, it's like, yeah, and there's always these like situational factors. Like, No Doubt we're in California somewhere,
Totally.
and it was like, okay, so Jimmy Iovine was in California. Like, did you see the Defiant ones?
No, is that a doc
Shit's
on them?
fucking awesome. No, it's not about them. It's about Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre. It's great.
Oh, what is it called?
The Defiant ones.
Okay, that sounds cool.
It's I think it was an HBO thing. It's like a 4-part thing, just talking about how these two guys from utterly different walks of life eventually their paths intersected, and now they're billionaire business partners with Beats headphones.
That's that's the thing that annoys me when people say you never know who's watching, because it's kind of like, well, you're kind of right, but you've never played a music note in your life. But to me, that's like lotto. It's as likely as winning the lotto. And I don't play lotto, and I don't bank on really any success, which helps me to continue going.
Yes.
Because I don't expect to be successful. So any little success is like, oh, great. It's like a show. If I go to a show, I'm like, this show is going to suck. And sometimes I have to say that to myself just to kind of like be able to swallow that pill of like, no one's here.
Right.
And then it's great. Then you're like, wow, that's always better than like, it's going to rule. This tour is going to be great. This record launch is going to be amazing. And then being disappointed, because enough of those, then you might be like, you know what, fuck it. I don't like this feeling. I'm going to quit.
Yeah. it's like such a roll of the dice. I think especially with like bands, like if like I'm assuming when like with the Great Sabatini, like I mean you went on to have family and shit, and everyone went on like you guys did a couple like big old tours, several big old tours.
Yeah, decent ones, yeah.
I'm just gonna imagine that like it was like, all right, we should pare this down a little bit, like because I just think with a group, it's like all of a sudden the stakes are so much higher in terms of like you gotta watch like, oh, Johnny, man, he's looking out the window a lot these days.
Yeah, man,
What
it's
if
so
the-
it's
you
so
know?
unnatural to be suffering, and I use suffering like as if it's a real thing, but to be in those shoes with people who are your friends and brothers, but it's like it's unnatural to do that. I had to laugh at my buddy the other day talking about like, yeah, I get like 5 weeks off to tour, and I stopped. I'm like, that's so not in society's norm natural, and even as like people, as an animal, like to be out there with these guys, and it's simple as like simple comforts that people generally need: good food, good sleep, and even like intimacy, like a hug. You know, like a hug from my friends is definitely important. And actually, I'm lucky that I have bands that at least when we're on the road, we are that like, I love you, I need you, like that support group. But even still, like there's a version of suffering that you're doing that isn't always great, and isn't like smart sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's like when I don't know if you've ever had, you know, your best friend move in with you when you were younger or something.
Dude.
And sometimes that's a great idea.
That was my band. That was me, Mark, and Joe.
Right.
Lived in the same house.
It's like sometimes it can kill the whole thing. You know, same deal with like living with your girlfriend or your wife.
But totally.
Yeah.
Man, 100%. Yeah, you live with for real. It's tricky.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as you would think.
Yeah, you're just like my favorite person.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't we spend all our time together? And then it's like so fucking disheartening when you're like, no, we should have barriers because there are limits. You could actually start disliking this person. That's like your favorite person.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's weird.
So, yeah, that's the thing. The group dynamic is a whole nother story.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I like about a podcast is that I am in charge. I'm the guy.
Right.
You know, it's a creative outlet, and I love it. I chose the artwork. I choose the guests. I choose the everything. That's really nice. That's really fun. It's fun to be creative with a group of people or literally one other person. But, like, it's really also fun to do shit on your own. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, hopefully this becomes something. I don't know. It's fun to do this. It's fun to talk about shit that is important, and it's easy to talk about it. Like, I don't get to do this, you know? Like, at shows, we're like, hey, we're here because we're all about the same thing, but we don't get to talk about it. Like, these type of things, and maybe you've had them, but the 2 a.m. driving back from a show on the road are, like, the most real sort of reinforcement, but just like celebration, talking about it. Eat a good meal and you're like, fuck, that was a good sandwich, right? Yeah, I had that same sandwich. It was so goddamn good. You know, you play music and it's just, that was fucking fun, right? Yeah, it was. It's that like real like connectivity you get with people. That's really fun too.
Yeah.
I can't imagine otherwise, to just exist and not share in anything with anyone. Like, you can do that with your family. It's a version of it. But I guess the more versions of it that you can get, the better. Sports teams, forums, speed running, whatever.
So the more ways that you can find connectivity.
Yeah.
So,
you feel less alone.
Right. So with so what was it that made you start doing the podcast?
It just, as simple, it just seemed like fun. It seemed like a fun thing to do. It seemed like, oh, I could have fun doing that.
Because you
Why
have
not?
to keep up a weekly schedule, or
Yeah.
you impose that on yourself, which
I do. Yeah. It's just it's like me talking to myself to be like, I don't know, I value hard work, and it's a hard work thing, and at the end of it, I feel good. I'm reading this other book. It's called Tribe, and I just started it, but there's one thing he talks about where there's 3 things that are important to everybody. I fucking try to remember it. The one thing that stands out is competence. Everybody wants to feel competent at what they do. So I know when I come here and I rip a good idea on the drums, I feel like, I'm here for a reason. And same with the podcast. Like, I can do it, and it's like, oh, I'm competent. I can do that. Like, it's another sort of like, I'm here for a reason. I'm valuable. Like, everybody should want to feel valuable, and nobody should feel invaluable. Everybody can be valuable. It's just finding what that is. It can be so terrifying to be alone and feel worthless. I never want that on anybody. And it takes courage to maybe step out of your comfort zone, like, to talk. And it's a bit presumptuous, like people care to hear this, but people do. Some people do.
Right.
So for me with the podcast, it was just like, yeah, I like hard work, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. So that's a really good thing. It's like health. It's mental health.
Right.
Might tie into that. It's like, eat a good salad, you feel good physically. When I execute something and I feel like it's good, if it's a song or some creative, and I'm like, that's a good thing. It's feeding my mental health. It makes me feel better about myself. I feel like I'm doing something that's good, and you hope that it's like music. You hope someone gets something out of it. The conversation that we have, which is, could be a private conversation. You put it out there, so you hope people get something out of it.
Right. Yeah. I think. I'm curious to. I think my intention is just to put this up. Once I press stop, that's exactly what will go out.
Yeah, whatever. And if this is just a one-off thing, it's still cool to do this type of shit. We can both walk away from this to be like, I don't know. Again, it's just special, man. I really it's great that we met, that you're, in my life, that I can pull from someone like you for inspiration or direction, or just great. You just don't, it's another notch. You just don't feel as alone. You want people on your team. You want to be part of a team. Maybe that ties into just, if you're an animal and you're left behind, you fucking die.
Yeah, exactly.
So there might be echoes of that.
Yeah.
As I pull my fucking mad blunt.
That's the thing. And that's the end of that. Thanks for checking it out. I've been Jack Moves. That was Steve Vargas. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't yet, either on YouTube, SoundCloud, or iTunes. And be sure to check us out in 2 weeks on May 28th.